Today's guest is someone who walks the medicine wheel as a lived devotion to her own healing. She has been shaped by a shamanic path and now serves as a medicine woman and wisdom keeper, holding space and teaching from embodied experience. She is also a Kundalini facilitator and works with the rose frequency as part of her spiritual practice. I crossed paths with Emma during a plant medicine retreat. If you stay with this conversation, you may find something within you quietly ignited as her medicine is received. Hi guys, welcome back to Alone with Solitude. Today I have another very special guest here. I know her personally, but you don't, so I'm going to hand it straight over to her. Please tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do.
Amazing. Thank you, Hamali. So my name's Emma Rose and I am a healer, a Kundalini facilitator, and I also do a bit of like soul psychology and shadow work. And I've just developed the Rose Wheel method that combines all four of those things. So you've got the Kundalini, which is the energy activation. You've got the rose frequency healing for the heart. And then you've got the soul psychology and the shadow work, which is all underpinned by the medicine wheel. And that brings it all together. That's kind of what I do.
Okay, Emma, so let's move into a little bit about how your path unfolded.
It's been a lifelong journey, to be fair. So I think even as a child, I was very like spiritually attuned, but I didn't understand what that was. And I was born with like a chronic health condition, and that created a lot of different challenges in my childhood that created a very different version of childhood compared to like friends and family, because I spent a lot of time in hospital and I was going through all of these kind of traumatic incidents. And throughout that, I was having like high sensitivity and quite a reactive child, quite an emotional child, and nobody really knew or understood what was happening. So I'd say it started very early on. There was a call in for the work, but obviously as a child, you don't really understand what that is. And then throughout like my teenage years and my early years, I'd say I was quite spiritually attuned with tarot cards, oracle cards. I used to go spiritualist church. And that was kind of the beginning, I think, of my understanding of an awakening, but it was like stage one. And I was always kind of connected to something bigger than myself, but I didn't always understand what that was. And then when I got to my mid-20s, I was really in a bad place. Like mentally, I was struggling with PTSD, my physical health was struggling. And I was just looking for alternative healing methods, like anything holistic that I could try. And I started with Reiki, quantum healing, and then I stepped into using like the medicine wheel and medicine ceremonies. My prime intention was I want to heal myself and I want to understand. I'd done a bit of past life work and I wanted to understand things from my past life that had carried through to this life that I needed to work on. But throughout my first medicine journey, which was a beautiful experience, I was kind of given the message that I'm supposed to be a healer and I'm supposed to help people alchemize their pain. And to be honest, I didn't truly understand what that meant at the time. But I did leave that ceremony and I knew that I would never be the version of myself that I walked in as. And I knew that something was going to change, something drastic. And it was bigger than my own healing. And that kind of created this doorway, this portal, this gateway for me to walk through. And I remember I made a vision board, I think it was 3 months afterwards. And on this vision board, I put like sound bowls and I put retreat spaces. And within 12 months, I trained in sound, I trained in Kundalini, I was holding retreats. And it was almost like the universe and spirit were just handing me those opportunities. Like I wasn't really even working for it. It was almost just dropped in my lap. And all I had to do was take another step forward. So it felt very organic, very aligned, very natural to start following this path. And it just naturally began to unwind where I started to integrate and understand what the medicine had shown me and what it meant to be a healer and what my healing and my medicine was for the world. And I just followed that, my soul call. And now I'm here.
Oh, that's so beautiful. That brings me to my next question. So you said you work across many modalities like shamanic practices, plant medicine, sound healing, and Kundalini activations. How is it that you discovered each one and what drew you to them personally?
Oh, what a question. It's loaded. So it's interesting actually because I initially got drawn into sound healing because a lot of the spaces I was in, I was having these sound healings and it really resonated with my soul. It really activated something within me. And I think it felt quite entry level. It felt quite a comfortable space to train in sound healing. It didn't feel super woo woo and super spiritual. So it still felt quite mainstream for the beginning of my path. So I started there, and then I met the sister group we met in. And during that, I was introduced to Kundalini energy work. And my Kundalini just naturally started to awaken and activate in that space. And it was really powerful, also very daunting, because Kundalini awakenings are not easy. And it was weird because at the time I had stepped into this space and I was being exposed to this other healing modality, and it was very resonant with my frequency and my body. And at the same time, everything was disintegrating in my human experience. So I had the breakdown of a very toxic relationship. My dog died, which was like a soul tie. So I was going through this massive, deep grief process. It was bringing up old grief from my mum dying 10 years prior. So it was like the catalyst of everything coming at once as I was awakening with Kundalini. And it was a very fierce and strong awakening. And during that process, I actually did think I'm losing my mind, as we all do. We've all been there. You have those really terrifying moments of like, what's happening? Why do I feel like this? And I found the medicine wheel through the person I trained with for Kundalini. So her shaman was the retreat space that we did the training, and I was introduced to him. And I instantly knew that I need to do some shamanic work. So I stepped onto his wheel, and it was the thing that grounded and integrated my awakening. It was the thing that made me realize I'm absolutely safe, sane, and okay. And it gave me a compass, a map of my soul and my journey. And it helped me to understand, using the directions and the archetypal animals, it helped me to understand that no matter what challenges I was facing in my human or spiritual experience, if I work with the archetypes and I work with my ancestors and I work with my soul map and I work with the will, it's okay. Like, it's grounded, it's fine. They are there to hold and help you. You don't have to do it on your own, because obviously awakening can feel very isolating, even if you're in sister groups and other spiritual groups. But to connect into the will and the shamanic path and your ancestors and feel it in your soul at your core being, you realize you're absolutely fine and you can handle everything on your path. And that's when things really started to change for me.
Wow. That it just blew me away. Because obviously I've spoken to you about so much, and it's so nice for you to share like in much more depth what your path has been and how things have unfolded. So thank you so much for sharing all of that. So much that I resonate with. And especially about how profound of a journey the Kundalini awakening journey can be. So wow, it's so beautiful.
It's so funny because when you're in it, like I remember being in it, and there was that point where you go, and I remember my shaman actually, so my teacher, I said to him, I don't want this anymore. I don't want to feel this. I don't want this awakening. I want it to end. And he laughed and he went, well, go and eat a pizza and have a glass of wine and go shopping and be really human. He said, but you'll never turn back. You'll be back here in a couple of weeks or month saying you're ready.
Okay.
And it was true. And he said, you need to just slow the process down. He said, and the way we slow it down is we become really human again. So do all those really human things. Watch Netflix, do all that stuff. And he said, just do that for a couple of weeks, Em. Just have a break and you'll be fine. And I did. And then I came back, and it was like the medicine wheel, truly, it was like the ancient call. It was like, I've done this so many lifetimes before, and now I remember it's okay.
Wow. I'm actually navigating through that like right now, where I felt the call to just kind of be human again, because there's so much that's going on right now with new age spirituality that I just felt like I wasn't feeling quite aligned to what I've been coming across. And actually, I even felt the same thing. I was like, I just want to flip the switch back, turn it off. But it turns out that after a little bit of I don't even want to call it isolation, but just pulling back, being in my solitude, in my hermit energy, and then I'm back there again, back on this
It's
profound
so
journey.
interesting because I think a lot of us at the moment are in this space where, like, the new age spirituality, it's the further along my journey I've gone, the harder it is to sit in that, because I find it's a very interesting space. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't find the right words, but it's not everything's in alignment to how I view spirituality and what I believe soul purpose is and soul essence and journeys and remembering. And a lot of clients I work with, especially if they've worked with other healers and stuff or other ceremonies, like they're not integrating. And I explain to them the integration is the being human. Like we came here to be human. We are already spiritual. We don't need to chase spirituality. That's who we are at soul essence. But we came here to be a human and have this human experience. And what I see is a lot of people are awakening or they're in certain spiritual spaces, and all spaces are needed. I'm not tearing any space down, but it's more about connecting out than actually harnessing and integrating in so that you can be a human that's connected to the realms and to the, you need to be in both. You are the bridge, you are the channel. You're not here to always be up there and you're not there. Like, it's about meeting in the middle. So that whole flipping the switch is so necessary. Like, that is true spirituality, being a human.
Wow, you've articulated that perfectly. That was so beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. That's what I've been working through. And do you know what? I'm kind of enjoying just being human right now because I think there was a thin line between like me being on my spiritual path and like you said, it's just about like trying to find that balance and not getting caught up too high up in the higher realms and coming back and being grounded in this human experience. So I really deeply felt what you said. And like I said, that's what I'm working through right now. So there's a beautiful alignment there. Another one. Okay, so Emma, you shared a little bit about your clients. So many of your clients come with trauma, grief, or addiction. How do you hold space for someone that's navigating through such deep pain?
A lot of it for me is based off of my intuition. I really do focus a lot around trauma work though, and like the traumatic imprints and patterning in the brain. So I'm really fascinated by like the neural imprint as well. Like I'm all for the spiritual healing, but when you're dealing with like PTSD, addiction it's not about what are they addicted to, it's about what's the pain point, what's the trauma they're avoiding that they need an addiction. And I mean, shamanically, yes, there's the spirit of addiction that you can remove, but you can remove the spirit of addiction. But if you're not treating the pain point beneath it, the spirit of addiction will come straight back into that wound. It's not just let's wave a Harry Potter wand and take the spirit of addiction away and you're healed. We need to remove that, but we also need to integrate in the pain point, like where's the wounding and how do we close the wound? What are you avoiding? What's hurting? So for me, it's making sure that you're meeting the client where they're at, never forcing them to move beyond what they're ready to work through. So making sure they're in perfect alignment with the healing that you are ready to help them open up to. And I think it's about also having that mix of, yes, I can do shamanic healing. Yes, I can do a Kundalini activation, but also let's talk about the mind as well. And that's why, like, when I use my method, it is treating all four bodies. We're treating the physical, the somatic, we're treating the mind, we're treating the heart and the emotional body, and we're treating the spiritual and soul body as well. And it's about treating all four layers at the right time, because each client will come in with their different bodies ready to. Some people come and they're like, I need to heal my physical body and I'm ready, but my spiritual body I'm scared to touch. And other people will be like, oh, I want to spiritually heal, but I don't want to face what's held in my body's physical tissues and cells because that's too terrifying. So it's meeting them and helping them to understand that you can't just heal one aspect of yourself. And also, a lot of the time, I always explain to them that healing doesn't feel good. Because a lot of people that especially are new and they're looking for a holistic way forward and this answer to healing their pain or healing their addiction, it's not just one session and it's gone. And you're not going to have a session with me and necessarily leave and feel on cloud nine. Sometimes you're going to leave and feel like you want to cry for a week. Sometimes you're going to leave and you're going to feel really ragey and angry at the world. And a lot of clients that are new to these spaces might go, oh, it's not working, or why do I feel like this? Something's gone wrong. And I'm like, no, that's it going exactly right. You need to feel to heal. You need to move through that process to let it go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's interesting actually, because sometimes I have clients as well that come in and they feel like they know exactly what they need to do work on. And then it's after the process that they realize that actually it was something completely different. And there's also that kind of thin line where people come in and expect a blissful state, and then they'll get addicted to that and just wanting to go in and get that dopamine hit.
Especially in Kundalini. And you're a Kundalini facilitator yourself, so you totally understand this. But I find a lot of my clients who they start using Kundalini as a healer modality, and it can quickly become a fun high. And also plant medicines. So you see it a lot in plant medicines as well. And that's why, as a space holder and a facilitator, especially within the shamanic path where you're using plant medicines, you need to be very mindful. If you have the same client come into every ceremony, you need to have a conversation about that, because they shouldn't be at every ceremony. There's probably some form of bypassing, or they're replacing. I see often people recovering from addiction, and this isn't a judgment, this is just acknowledgement of what I've seen in my work, that they're recovering from addiction and they've traded in drink and drugs for plant medicine. And because we've spiritually tagged it as plant medicine and healing, it's no longer an addiction, but it can be. Addiction doesn't need to be a chemical substance that's addictive. It's how you use an activity. Is it with the highest intentions or the intentions to bypass and avoid?
There was some really powerful stuff that you said and mentioned, because I think that that's what people really misunderstand when they think of addiction. They only really think of a substance, and what you've mentioned about really going deeper and understanding that there's there's pain there, unprocessed pain. So thank you so
And
much.
usually it's always childhood.
For sure. Yeah.
Really, like a lot of the clients I work with, it's always childhood imprints and pain. And yeah, they just, it's about creating the inner parents, like the mother, father, the protector, the nurturer. It's about giving back to your child what wasn't there at the time, reclaiming those parts of yourself, like soul retrievals, taking those soul fragments back. But also, it's about feeling safe enough to actually meet those versions of yourself. And that's a lot of the work I do with clients, is making sure they feel safe, that their nervous system's regulated, they're spiritually safe, so they can go and meet those parts of themselves.
So beautiful. And I think that this is exactly what people need to understand. And with more of us sharing our insights, the more awareness we can raise and definitely support people, because there's people that are at different stages on their path. There's, like you said, there's going to be new people who haven't ever sat with the plant medicine or gone on any kind of or even had any experience with any type of healing modality. And then there's the more experienced people who tend to come back. But integration has been a really massive theme for me this year, and I've been really sitting with it, because I feel like it changes. The idea of integration for me has changed a lot. It can mean one thing one week, and then another week I'll have a completely different perspective on it, but it's very profound.
I feel like integration's been a hot topic this year, and even for me, it's something that I've been guided to consistently to reflect on and look at time and time again, and how we actually implement that in our real lived experience, and especially in our own personal journeys. Because as healers, we're never healed. That's the other thing as well. I always say to my clients, don't put me on a pedestal. I'm right beside you, walking the same path. And so it's our own integration, but it's also helping clients to understand what integration truly means. Because I feel like the word's spoken a lot, but not everybody truly understands
Yeah.
what that looks like.
No, absolutely. And definitely when you're just hopping from one healing space to another. I mean, even with me in the last 2 years, I definitely had that, with me sitting with the plant medicine. And I was sort of I was ready to go. I was I wanted to go out into the world and do everything. But I actually just wanted to take the last year to actually just sit with everything that's come up and be able to embody those teachings that have been coming through for me. So this is what actually supported me with just being able to integrate that into my human experience as well, because those are the people that know me, they know that I tend to go really up into the spiritual realms, but I was you need to be here.
You are very high. You're very...
So yeah, definitely grounding and coming back to the earth is something
Oh, I love
that I feel
Mother
like I need
Earth,
to.
Pachamama. She is just everything. I am so grateful I have a dog, and I walk every single day in the forest or the woods with the dog, and it's necessary. It's not choice based anymore. It's absolutely necessary.
Necessary.
Mm,
Love that.
yeah.
Okay, so you describe yourself as both a mirror and a guide. That's what I've taken away from what you've shared. How do you balance guiding someone while allowing them to find their own answers? I mean, I think we kind of covered a little bit of this, but If you'd like to expand on that, I'd love to hear more.
So I like to lead with like compassion and humility. And I also like to teach from a very grounded perspective. Like, I don't want to be on a pedestal. I don't want to be a guru. I don't want to have these titles attached to me that make me something bigger than what I am, because I'm exactly the same as every other single human being walking this earth. I often, with clients, I'm always like, I might just have a little bit more knowledge on wisdom in the things that you want to learn about, that I've already walked that path a bit further than you. And I've got a signpost that says, hey, this is what you need to do, and this is the way you need to walk. So I very much like meet them where they're at, and I want them to be able to resonate with me and my journey. So I'm very open. I share a lot about my own journey so they don't feel so alone in it. A lot of people that I work with, they feel really alone and isolated internally. They could have bundles of friends, family, busy life. But when you actually sit with them and their energy, they're frightened to sit with themselves. That is why they're so busy and they've got all these people around. But it's making them feel safe enough and held, like very nurturing. I find that my spaces can be quite nurturing, and people often reflect that back, is that my energy is quite nurturing, quite loving, quite warm. And it allows people to feel safe and seen. And once somebody feels safe and seen, then they're more open to being held. And then you can hold the space. And it's very much intuition. It's learning what that person needs in the moment. So it's being guided by their energy on the day, because the same client can come to you 3 times for 3 different sessions, and they can all be very, very different depending on where they are, what they're working through, what's in their energy field at the moment, what needs to be cleared and alchemized. So I never sort of have like a set way. I just kind of use my intuition and lead with an open heart and humility and a grounded, balanced, embodied path. And then I know that the people that resonate with that and are ready for the work will align.
Beautiful. As someone who's had the honor of being in ceremony with you, I can definitely confirm everything you said about your
Thank you.
warmth, how nurturing you are, and most importantly, just creating that safety. I've really felt like you've came through for me in ceremony, and as someone who has like had the honor of being in that space with you, I definitely am very grateful that you were there. As it really helped me with what I was moving through. And I think that I really needed someone as grounded, like, and especially with your heart space. Like, it just felt like a motherly energy, and so grateful.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Do you have a personal breakthrough or a transformative moment from your own healing journey that you could share with us?
I touched on it earlier, but it was definitely my first medicine ceremony, which I can go into a bit more detail if you want. So I hadn't sat with the medicine. I didn't understand or really know anything about the shamanic path or plant medicines, which is wild now, because now it's always in my field and my ether. And I now feel like everyone knows what I'm talking about. But I realized I was on the other side at one point who didn't have no knowledge of what this meant. And I was going to these sound baths, and I was having this healing with this quantum healer, and they were running these sound baths. I was going for like a year, and I kept getting this message come through that I need to sit with plant medicine. And I didn't understand what that meant at all. So I was kind of getting these thoughts and feelings. And then I met this sound bath, and these people that I've been working with for a year go, oh, we've got a medicine ceremony next week. If anyone wants a space, there's still spaces. And I was like, what do you mean a medicine ceremony? And they said, oh, we're going to be sitting with these medicines and they're good for healing. And I was like, I've been getting this information come through into my field for ages, and I didn't know what it meant. Sign me up. And I felt in total alignment. Like, I know a lot of people come into work with the medicine, get a lot of ego and fear. I had none of that. I remember driving there on the day. I was in such a high vibration. It was like spirit were literally carting me there themselves. And I had no fear. Like, I literally rocked up. I was so cool as a cucumber, because I didn't know what I was in for. And there we go. So we do this whole ceremony, and I remember laying down, and we've taken the medicine, and they said, lay down and just listen to the sound bowls. Put your eye mask on and listen and forget. And I remember there was that one split second I laid down and thought, hold on a minute, what have I just done? This could go awfully wrong. And then I was just like speaking to my guides, and I was like, please give me a sign that I'm safe, I'm held, and I'm in the right place, and it's in alignment. And within seconds, all of my ancestors were around me. Remember, I've got my eyes closed, so I'm like in the astral, and all of my ancestors were around me, and there was like a tribe of ancestors, and they were all dancing. And they were like, "We've been waiting for you. Like, we've been calling you, we've been waiting. We're so glad you're here. Thank you for coming." And like my astral body was with them. We were like sort of dancing in the energy. And they were like, "You're exactly where you need to be. This is exactly what we've been calling you for." And throughout that journey, I was shown like a bird took me up and was flying me to different lifetimes and showing me all of these things I needed to understand. And then I was getting like intuitive messages and telepathic messages about the healing, and this is your calling, and you need to follow this path, and you're here to alchemize pain and all of this stuff. And it was the most beautiful journey. I remember being up at source energy, and I felt source energy, and it's a level of love that you cannot experience here. You can love your children, you can love your parents, you can love your pets, you can love your, but I promise you, you will never feel it to the true energy. And I was seeing all of these imprints in my own life, ancestral pains, everything, and it was so sad. Some of it was so harrowing. But because I was connected into source, I couldn't feel any negative emotions. It was just pure love. It was like I was alchemizing with pure love. So I was being shown stuff that needed alchemizing in the journey, but I was alchemizing with source pure love. And I know this sounds absolutely crazy to the people that haven't been in those situations, but this is really what happened. And I'd never experienced anything like that. Even for me, I mean, obviously in the journey, it was very real, but afterwards, integrating that was a challenge. It was very, you know, for the first week, it was great because I was still kind of connected. And then you sort of really land, and it's realizing, you know, everything gets blasted open, and you really start to realize everything as it truly is, like you remember. And that was the catalyst. So I know I touched on it at the beginning, but to go a bit deeper into what happened, it was meeting my ancestors like that, understanding their call, understanding the native call, understanding the remembrance, understanding the healing, the source, like all of it as a whole was just the catalyst for me, where it was like I died and was reborn in that ceremony, and it was like pure transformation. Pure transformation.
Wow.
Mm.
Wow. I got such chills when you were talking about like experiencing like true, unconditional, like source love.
You felt it.
Yeah. I really, really felt it. And there's, like you said, there's nothing like it. I just felt like I wanted to take a moment and sit with that, because it was something very activating in what you were saying as well. Like it was almost like a remembrance for me, took me back to a very profound moment in one of my personal experiences as well. So that was very powerful. I felt a lot of ancestral presence as well as you were delivering that.
I feel so like my ancestors are just, they're everything. Like they lead me. They lead me every time in ceremony, in healing spaces, anything I'm doing in this life, I now understand. It's because they're behind me and they're guiding me all the time. And I didn't realize before, because I didn't understand then, didn't have the remembrance, but the connection I have to my ancestors is just so powerful. And without them, I couldn't do this work. They are the backbone of any space I'm able to hold.
Absolutely. I think in a lot of cultures as well, a lot of traditions, they have like ancestral healing is just a norm for them. They have like many different rituals and practices in place. I mean, for me as well, personally, coming from like a Hindu family, that's something, but I don't think I was as deeply devoted to ancestral healing until later in my life, when I've gone through like my own processes. Now I actually understand um the power of being able to walk beside your ancestors. Essentially, we are our ancestors. We're experiencing life through them, or they're experiencing life through us. And
That's setting my Kundalini up.
so I've been channeling that a lot recently for like my collective readings that I do. So I felt a very strong presence of ancestral energy. So as you were saying that, I really felt a deep resonance. And yeah, just want to take a moment to really thank them and honor our ancestors, definitely. That brings me. Are you on your transformation journey? Or maybe you are waiting to meet your soul family. The Awakening Circle begins next month. Check out the link in our description to secure your spot for it. How do you help clients distinguish between what needs to be felt versus what needs to be released during a healing session?
Well, I think the way that I heal, everything needs to be felt before it can be released. That's how I work, and perhaps people don't. I mean, when you're working in the shamanic way and you're removing, like, you can just remove things that are spiritual kind of attachments and stuff, but you still need to feel through whatever wound they are coming into. Anything that attaches into our field is coming into a physical human opening. Like, there's a whole, well, this is how I view my teachings is, our aura is porous because there's a wounding. And that wounding is the entry point for negative energies to attach into our field, to attach into us, to create havoc in our real life, to create disease, unhappiness, addiction, chaos. If everything's going wrong in your life, you probably need an energy healing. There's something with you that shouldn't be in your field, that shouldn't be on your aura. That can be removed quite easily in the shamanic path, in other paths, even in Reiki. You can clear stuff like that off. But if you're not sealing up your aura and sealing up your emotional wounding, it can easily come back in. So I feel everything has the essence of needing to feel something to heal something. Yes, I can move things out your field very quickly and release it, but there's still an element of you need to feel through what let it in the first place. And that's just my personal way that I work. Not all healers will work like that. That's how I view it.
Interesting. So if you do come across someone who's quite resistant when you're holding space, how do you navigate through that? Because I know different facilitators have different approaches, and then I've had my personal experience as well. So I'd love to hear how you.
It's challenging, and it depends in what sort of situation we're in. If we're in like a medicine ceremony and there's a lot of a resistance, obviously you need to do a lot of clearing, but sometimes you just need to sit with them while they're looping. I had someone in our last ceremony who, he was really struggling to go into the journey, and it was a fear of failure. That was the imprint. And it took him about an hour and a half, and I was outside the space with him because he didn't want to be in the space, felt really overwhelmed. He was looping a lot. And in the end, I started off how I normally would, which would be, obviously I'd done a bit of clearing and I was doing all the spiritual chit chat and the woo woo and the, ignore the ego, surrender, surrender, surrender. And then I realized, no, this guy needs human. So he's like, where am I? When am I going home? When will this end? So I was like, I'll end in 6 hours. Your friend's going to take you home. You came with him, remember? And I needed to actually give him that. I needed to give him this is a human experience, forget the spirituality. And then he dropped in. And then he was like, oh, I'm having a great time now, Em. And I was like, oh, funnily enough. So it really does depend on the people. If I'm working with Kundalini and there's resistance, I trust that the energy will still work for them. And a lot of Kundalini resistance will be the mind, where they're too in their mind or they're in their masculine a lot. And I often say to people, it can take 5 or 6 activations before you truly let the energy in. It's the same with medicine. People can come to medicine ceremonies and sit for 3 or 4 times and they think they're having a wonderful time, or they think they're seeing things, or they think they're healing. But the truth is they haven't let the medicine in. So if you're seeing like a lot of purging, a lot of resistance, it's because they won't let it in. And it's the same with any healing modality. It can happen in Kundalini, it can happen in plant medicines. Even in sound healings, I've had people that fidget, sit up, want to leave, it's too loud. If they don't want to resonate and they don't want to surrender, they won't. And it's about meeting them where they're at. But sometimes it's also saying, do you know what? If you're not ready, it's okay. I don't need to force you into anything. If you want to leave my sound healing, that's fine. Please do, it's right for you. If you don't want to complete your Kundalini, that's okay too.
I love that. I really love that. And the way that you were able to kind of just go back into the human experience for that client, that's really powerful. I think that when it's, as a facilitator, like, it's so important not to be forceful with people's process. And there's a very thin line. And yeah, the way that you said that you were able to take him back, that was very moving.
Thank you. Yeah, it's just, I think you'll know yourself, you do this, but it's meeting people where they're at, and there's never one set or strict way. And my shaman teacher taught me that. He said, like, you know, he's been doing this for 20 years. And he said, like, no two clients will ever be the same. And you can't be too strict. Obviously, in ceremony, there are particular rules and regulations. And, even in Kundalini, there's certain health conditions I wouldn't work with and things like that. And that's why as well, the workup is so important. So thorough consultations for this work, even with energy healing, is so necessary. But overall, if the client's safe to be in that space, but they're just struggling to surrender, work with them to meet them where they're at. Don't force anything. Forcing things, and even like the word surrender, I've really struggled with this year, if I'm honest, Hamali, because I realise it's just so direct and dictational. It's like surrender, surrender, surrender. And I'm like, that's not what a client needs. What a client needs is someone to say, you're safe. I'm going to make you feel safe so that you don't have to fight anymore. But it's not shouting, but sort of repeating like a mantra, just surrender, 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 when somebody's really struggling in the moment, doesn't actually surrender them any deeper to the process. It's more about giving them the space and the freedom to work through where they're at in that moment and just keep regulating their nervous system, keep giving them that safety. Like with him, he really needed, like I was holding his hands, he keeps squeezing, and that's what he needed. He needed to feel something in the real world. He didn't need me to tell him to surrender. He needed me to hold his hands, squeeze with him so he felt that pressure and say, it's fine, it'll be over in 6 hours. You're going to go home with your friend. Remember, you came like that. And it was that reassurance that you're not losing your mind. You're just struggling with the surrender, but not telling him he's struggling with the surrender, allowing him to kind of unfold at his own pace.
That is beautiful. And I think if anything, that would actually support someone in being able to surrender once they feel safe. So that is really, really beautiful. And he must be so grateful to have had you in the space.
I
He needs
messaged him the following day just to check in, because obviously when people have a difficult start to their journeys, it can be quite hard coming back out as well. And I said, how are you feeling today? And he's like, I feel great. And thank you so much, because I was able to work through some really deep stuff. And the fact that you didn't leave me in that moment helped. So, yeah, it's amazing.
So, Emma, if I was one of your clients, how would you structure my journey from the first session to significant transformation?
It depends what we're working through. And it depends what modalities the client's open to. So I would have a discussion with you about, this isn't magical work. It's, there needs to be discussions about, why are you in my space? Why have you found me? What are you searching for? What's driven you here? What are you working through? Is it physical? Is it emotional? Is it mental? Is it spiritual? Is it all four of those things? And that will then guide me to understand what I think we should be doing modality-wise, and also have a chat with you about what it is that's drawn you in, what things you're interested in, perhaps what things you're not interested in. So it's, again, like, I'm very keen on like consultations, like deep chats. I usually have like a 30 to 60 minute Zoom call with any new potential clients to have a really good in-depth talk about what they're going through. It also gives me a chance to like scan energy to understand what's going on in their field, to see how receptive they are to energy work, because not everybody is receptive. So, somebody might come to me and they're like, I really want to do Kundalini, and we do one session and they're not that receptive, and I'm getting intuition and guidance that actually I know exactly what you need, and it's not what you think it is. Because often some clients will come in and they've got a very clear idea about what it is they want, and it's not always the right fit for what they want to alchemize and transform. Other clients come in and they haven't got a clue, but they're desperate to feel better. They're desperate to move through their pain point. They're desperate to anchor their awakening. And that's actually easier as a facilitator, because you can kind of take the reins more easily, because you know usually what it is that's going to help that particular problem, and you can guide them effortlessly. It's harder when I'm working with clients who have a clear idea of what they think they need, but when I'm talking to them and I'm understanding what's in their field and in their physical body and in their emotional body, realizing that perhaps what they think they need is not best aligned for the transformation and the healing. Because it's those clients where you have to try and go deeper with them and explain the different modalities and bring them on side to try in what you know from experience will work. So it's very complex, and it depends on what they're working through and how they're working. I do lots of different things. Obviously, ceremonies are really immersive. They're really good for people that are working through deep trauma and PTSD, but only if their nervous system has safety. If they're unregulated in their nervous system, putting them into a plant medicine ceremony will only be creating more chaos. So, nervous system regulation is key in Kundalini work, in plant medicine work. And it's understanding where a client is with their nervous system to understand what space will be right for them and when. If somebody comes to me, they want to do plant medicine, and I can feel they're not ready, they're not in a space to hold that, then I would work with them in other ways to prepare them for the space. So it's making sure you're always keeping the nervous system grounded so that they can hold frequency, they can hold energy, they can hold journey, because these things aren't light and easy things. They're really expansive. And although we always talk about working on the spiritual and the soul level and the energy level, our vessel has to hold that frequency and that journey. And if our vessel is fragmented from really deep trauma, unregulated nervous system, it's not always the best thing to throw them in the deep end with things like plant medicine or really aggressive Kundalini awakenings and loads of Kundalini activations. It's meeting them where they're at, making sure you prepare the vessel of the client to hold the healing, the frequency, the journeying, and get them to the end point of transformation.
Wow, that's amazing. That is amazing. I think that's exactly what most facilitators should be adopting. Because, like, as someone who feels like perhaps my nervous system wasn't so as regulated as it should have been when I've gone to various different spaces, healing spaces, I find that what it will do is it will just amplify that chaos.
If I can, I'm going to share a personal experience about that actually, because you've just made me think about something from my own experience that helped me integrate this teaching and helped me become what I deem a better facilitator in my work. And I remember like my first medicine journey where I said to you, I was in such alignment, I had no ego fear, everything was lovely, and it was a beautiful ceremony. And not every ceremony is. Sometimes you need to see really uncomfortable things to heal. But I remember shortly after losing my dog Safi, and it was a very hard grief journey for me. And it brought up the grief of my mother that I hadn't processed. It brought up inner child wound. There was lots attached to this loss of just my dog, my soul dog. But I went into plant medicine. I think it was the one we was out together. And there was, it was like, oh, just sit with the medicine and, work through this grief and you'll be fine. And I did. And it wasn't the best thing for me at the time. And it actually made me realize, because I was so dysregulated in my nervous system, because I'm going through the epitome of grief at the point. It was like 6 weeks since the dog had died. It was very, very raw. That actually it wasn't the right time for me to sit with the medicine to alchemize that pain. I needed to sit with that pain a little bit longer, and my body and my vessel needed to be able to hold that pain a little bit longer for me to be able to then use the medicine to alchemize it. And that was a really important, potent message for me that I needed to learn to understand when I'm working with clients how important it is, because there are people that believe the medicine is so intelligent. And again, I'm not dragging people down. Everyone has the right beliefs for their journey. But there's some people that believe the medicine's intelligent, you can take it anytime, it'll work for you in the best intentions. I don't believe that. I believe we need to be intentional with how we use medicine and healing practices and Kundalini, because we are working on our vessel, we are working on our nervous system, and it's so necessary that we're in a space to hold that work. Otherwise, you create unbelievable amounts of chaos. You can create psychic fractures, you can create worsening and declining mental health issues. So it's very key in my personal beliefs and my personal facilitation that you make sure the client's vessel and nervous system can hold what you're going to do.
Absolutely. That's like at the core now of most of my healing spaces, my teachings, like the importance of having a regulated nervous system. It's such a crucial area that people tend to overlook. I've been there myself, even when I first, let's say, became enlightened and when my spiritual journey sparked. It was a lot of having a Reiki session and then wanting to go back again and actually not knowing whether I was actually ready for what was going to come up. So It's really interesting.
I think that's why it's so important as space holders and facilitators to just be mindful that, yes, we might be selling a course, we might be selling a healing, we might be selling a ceremony or a service, but is that right for that client? Because we're not, selling something just la-di-da. It's really important that everything's in alignment and integral and in the right timing of their journey. So, yeah, I just think being mindful of that is so key. And it's a lesson that I learned firsthand from personal experience. And it's a lesson that you see as well in facilitation. I mean, you can have all the training in the world, but we're still going to have challenges in our spaces that teach us stuff. So I've had many teachings from personal experiences working with clients and personal experience of receiving that have helped me understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. We're all students, aren't we? We're still learning. So much more to learn. But yeah, I really, really resonate with that in terms of like all the teachings relating to the nervous system. Because I don't feel like you will even gain all of the benefits of the space if you're dysregulated. There might be potential there to be able to explore that territory, but if you're dysregulated, you're probably going to go away overwhelmed. Like you said, it could just lead to a lot of difficulty and challenges.
Definitely. And it's funny because obviously there's the whole void and the dark night of the soul and the awakening process, and it doesn't feel nice, does it? But there is definitely a difference from you having a dark night of the soul going into a void and a rebirth container to doing something holistically that has just oversensitized your vessel, your frequency, and your nervous system, and you can't hold it. They are two different things, but they can almost present as the same. And I think that's why being a conscious facilitator is actually meeting your client where they're at and having that awareness of, you know, they might be in the dark night of the soul and the void, but can they actually handle the healing right now? Or does it need to be more gentle and guided and slower? Or are they ready to sort of go deep? Yeah.
Exactly. Wow. What does a breakthrough look like in your work? Is it sudden? Is it gradual? Or is it both?
It depends on, I think, what space you're in. Kundalini can be quite quick at times, depending on client again. So if somebody's really receptive to the energy, they can work in Kundalini and release literally like layers of grief, pain, old wounding in 1 or 2 sessions, like very, very quickly. Even group sessions, like the group retreats and events I do, some people move through really deep stuff. I've had people work through childhood sexual trauma and left a session, a 2-hour session, and gone and confronted the person that abused them and told the family and completely moved through that and opened their voice and reclaimed themselves through speaking the truth. Yeah. And that was a 2-hour Kundalini session, group session. So it can be a breakthrough can be that big and that quick. I've had people that have come to medicine ceremonies that have been using cocaine for the best part of 20 years every day and walk out and never pick up and do a line again after one medicine ceremony. It even at times, I know this stuff works. I'm living proof. My own journey. I've healed my PTSD. I've healed loads of my physical chronic illness where even doctors say to me, "Oh my goodness, like your scans have changed and that's not possible." It doesn't make sense to people in medicine, right? But my point is, although I know and walk this and live it myself, when I have clients who come and leave and they put down 20 years of addiction after a 6-hour medicine journey, or they come to a 2-hour Kundalini and they leave and they're able to confront their abuser and speak that truth they've buried for years that they need to speak to reclaim those parts of themselves. It even blows my mind where I go, wow, this energy's intelligent, wow, the medicine's intelligent, because I don't do anything special. I create a space that I protect and that I align into people's energy field. I don't heal anybody, they heal themselves, and the medicine and the energy works for them. It's not me doing a single thing. I'm just literally standing there and I'm keeping them safe and I'm guiding everything. But the real work is the intelligence of the medicine, the intelligence of energy work, and the healing within their own frequency, body, and spirit and soul. And that can create a breakthrough that quickly if it's all in alignment and at the right time.
That's powerful. Okay, so that brings me to my next question. You emphasize freedom, healing, and peace as possible outcomes. How do you help clients sustain these transformations beyond the session or retreat?
So like my current course that I've just launched, it's about turning trauma to transformation. And it's using the four bodies. So it's using the physical, the emotional. I know I talk about them a lot, but they're really important. The physical, the emotional, the spiritual, and the mind. And that's how you create the lasting transformation, is making sure that you bring all of the bodies into balance. You heal all four bodies. Because if you're just healing one aspect, you're not going to create that ongoing change. It's also having radical honesty with yourself and facing your shadows and facing your patterns that you choose to participate in. So this is what I talk about when I say like soul psychology. Like, we can do all the energy work, all the lovely medicine work, but if you're not then going home and seeing yourself truly in the mirror and going, in a medicine journey, I was shown that I'm sabotaging myself because I keep taking cocaine, or in a medicine journey, I'm sabotaging myself because I won't show up for myself and leave that relationship that is so toxic for me. That's the anchoring in of the lasting freedom, the lasting peace. If you want peace, you need to leave that toxic relationship. If you want freedom, you need to stop using drugs, because that is how you make the lasting change. And to do that, you need to face yourself. And to face yourself, you can't be afraid of your shadow. So it's a lot of like mindset work, tending to the emotional wounding, tending to the mental mind and the shadows, the subconscious patterns that run our lives. It's creating all of that. And that's why I always talk about the four bodies. It's like, the spiritual, great. Somatically, moving it out the cells, the body's now forgetting and releasing, great. Emotionally, moving it through, great. But you need to integrate it with the mind.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's really important, because I feel like this is what another thing that I feel like happens is you tend to go to, and this is in the spaces where I feel like there isn't that conscious and that awareness of how to hold space correctly. And it kind of goes back to like when you come away from a session, you kind of want to have someone there to be able to guide you through that integration. Or even have like a supporting group around you, a space that can support you as you're navigating through it. Because I feel like that goes a really long way for people who are new to to energy work.
Yeah. And sometimes the shadow aspect of healing, as you know, is the most important part sometimes. And sometimes I have some clients where before I even work with them energetically, I'll be like, you need shadow work, because where you're at the moment in your mindset with your subconscious running so many programs, I can do all the healing with you, but your subconscious is going to run that program still. So it's really key, I think, to have the awareness of it all, so that you're able to understand what the client needs, so that they can anchor in the change, they can break the patterns, they can reprogram the subconscious. And that's what will create lasting transformation. You just can't have one without the other. You really can't. There's no cheat code. You have to do everything.
Yeah, you have to do it all. You have to do it all. I like that. There is no cheat code. Because we're all trying to cut the corners and find a way to make it easier. But have come here as humans to feel this is what we get to do. We get to feel we've got this body. And that's part of like the journey.
Yeah.
So wonderful.
It's beautiful.
We feel everything. Yep. Our capacity to heal. Which actually brings me to our next question. So just looking back at everything you shared about your journey, what is it that surprised you the most about yourself and your capacity to heal?
Oh, that's a good one. Oh, what surprised me the most? I think what surprised me the most is when I came out of my awakening and my Kundalini awakening, and I was definitely, during my Kundalini awakening, I was definitely called to the shamanic path. And I actually had a near-death experience during that time. And I had a seizure. And when I was in the seizure, I was going to the light through a black tunnel. And then my mum was there kind of waiting, and then said to me, like, you need to go back. And I spoke to my shaman, and he was like, oh, that's the shamanic call. Like, you have near-death experiences. That's telling you need to get on and do the work. And I think what surprised me is I used to live in so much physical discomfort with my conditions, mental and emotional pain every single day. And now I almost honor and love it. Now that I've alchemized and healed, I almost think, wow, I couldn't do what I do today, which sets my soul on fire. My work, the fact that it's even my work, doesn't feel like work. Like it sets my soul on fire. I absolutely love doing what I do. It it brings me alive in ways that I can't explain. And I always think back and think all of the pain I had to go through, all of the trials and tribulations, all of the time in hospital and sickness and PTSD and flashbacks and nightmares and you name it, all of that, I actually honor and love it now because without it, I couldn't hold others in the way that I do. And that was what was giving me the opportunity to activate my gifts. And I think that surprises me. It surprises me that something I hated for so long is now a source of love and compassion. Like, it's very strange, but yeah, that surprised me.
That is beautiful, Emma. I'm so grateful that you're here, spreading your light, your gifts, your playfulness, everything, everything. I love it. I love it. And I'm so proud of you. And I'm really celebrating you in your path because I really like resonate with the chronic illnesses as well. And there was a point where even I used to think the same thing, like even with my mental health, like at the time, I didn't see a light, but the further I've come in my journey now, it kind of all makes sense. And I've actually enjoyed like unpacking things and I think building that deeper connection with myself as well and my soul. And like you said, it's a remembrance. So there's so many things I was carrying around that I probably needed to sit with for a little longer before it was time to like let it go and release it. But yeah, I'm really, really grateful that you're able to like alchemize all of that pain into
I was just
your
going to say,
purpose.
it's pain to purpose and pain to power. Like, that's what all the pain I have now, it feels like it's my source of power and purpose. And I don't mean power in an egotistical way. I just mean as in reclaiming my soul, my authenticity, and my journey and what I'm supposed to do here now in this time. And that's what I mean by power. It's not kind of hierarchy, it's inner power. It's inner power, it's inner strength, it's inner resilience, and carrying that forward in my soul's purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. That's your personal power. And it's so beautiful that you get to share it and create more expansion collectively for others. So yeah, that's huge. It's huge. Just celebrating that. So, um, if you could give one piece of advice to someone who is feeling stuck, lost, or overwhelmed by their healing journey, what would it be?
You're not alone. It feels really lonely when you're overwhelmed, stuck, fearful. It can feel like there's something wrong with you, there isn't. You're sensitive, you're connected, and you're capable of being whole again. And the pain and the loneliness and the fear that you're feeling is because your soul knows that you're out of resonance and is trying to guide you into the space and the path that you're supposed to walk and lead. And you can do it. They're courageous enough, you're brave enough. Whoever's listening to this, you're brave enough, you're courageous enough, you're strong enough, you're resilient enough to face whatever it is, whatever you've already faced, which I'm pretty sure isn't nice because this path doesn't come easy to others. If you're already in that void, whatever you face to get there, I promise you, what you're going to face next to overcome it, alchemize it, heal, and become whole, you're totally capable of doing. You've already done the worst bits. You've already done the hardest bits.
I love that. You're not alone. Because it does get lonely. It does. And I think that people really get like mixed up with isolation versus solitude. So that's what came to mind as you were sharing that about not being alone. Because like there's been times in my life when I've convinced myself that I'm actually, being in my solitude when it was like a self-imposed isolation, even though it brought about a lot of profound insights and change into my life. But being able to distinguish the two and actually know when I want to pull back and just be in my hermit mystic space And that, like, you don't have to walk this path alone. Like, I feel like one of my greatest fears was having a community because of how let down I've been in the past. But I actually really yearn for that, and I love building those connections and being in those communities that are really deeply in alignment with my heart and what resonates with me and my soul. So thank you so much, because that's powerful stuff, and just a lovely reminder for anyone listening that you don't have to walk this path alone. Um, like you said, there's many of us that are blessed to be able to call this work, that want to walk like beside you. And just going back to quickly what you said about, like, not, in terms of power, it's not like this superiority. This is like a horizontal line, because a lot of people get mixed up, and you can on the spiritual path. That's why it's so important to do the work and do the shadow work, and take some time to integrate everything that you've picked up on your path, and not get caught up in that sort of power struggle.
100%. That's key. And can I just touch as well on community, sisterhood, spiritual spaces? If you've, again, I'm speaking to the listeners, like if you've been burnt, because you often are, takes a couple of rounds to find your tribe, don't let it put you off. They're lessons, they're teachings, they're necessary. I've been in different spaces, different spiritual groups and sisterhoods where things have unfolded that weren't comfortable. Also showed me where I'm out of line with my discernment. But they were the greatest lessons. And again, they helped me reclaim parts of myself, my authenticity, my boundaries, and understanding what I think are fair exchanges of energy in sisterhood, in spiritual spaces, in my tribe, where it's reciprocated and it's in the right energy and essence for me. And obviously, for newly awakening people, people that might feel quite lonely, you can end up falling into spaces that later down the line you don't align with anymore. But that's okay, because they were necessary at the time, and it's trusting the process with that.
Absolutely. I don't think I would even be who I am today if it wasn't for the different spaces that I've been in. So I definitely feel like someone will definitely resonate with that. And many people out there. I feel this is what I said, like, even when I have made a community for Align with Solitude, I've always said it's not just about you coming in and meeting someone, or like coming into the space and like having an expectation. It might just be that and like that obligation. Actually, let me restart. It's not about you coming into the space and feeling like you have to be obligated to take part in everything that's going on. From my personal experience and the spaces and communities that I've joined, there's always been someone that I'm supposed to be connected to. And it's almost like this beautiful kind of puzzle pieces that you're putting together as you're navigating through it. And you meet new people, and it's like, actually, I had to be in the space, not for everyone. It was only God, creator, source, bringing me in alignment with someone that I needed along my path. And then it's like also not getting attached to them, and understanding, like you said, there's a greater purpose. There's always a powerful lesson that comes with it. And yeah, now I'm just sort of like excited for what's
To come.
to come.
It's exciting, isn't it? I feel like the year of the horse feels very exciting.
It
I
does.
think it's got very high, exciting energy, lots of manifestation, lots of flow,
Yeah,
and
I think
also pace. I think the pace will pick up.
definitely. I think it's going to be very like action oriented, like fast movements.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I'm feeling ready and
Yeah.
prepared. I think a lot of people have been saying that, actually,
Yeah,
sharing that for
definitely.
2026. Just so much to look forward to. Done a lot of purging, a lot of releasing, shedding, letting go this season. So that actually brings me to my final question now. What do you hope listeners take away from your story and the work that you do?
I hope that the listeners take away that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, whatever tunnel it is that you're in at the moment. The light you're looking for is there, even if you can't see it. And I hope that hearing my journey fills somebody with a little bit of hope, a little bit more hope than perhaps they had before listening to this. Perhaps it gives them that deep soul call. Perhaps they heard something in this that resonated with their soul, and they felt it. They felt it deep inside, and that's where they're supposed to be heading on their path. It's about creating safety in others and a space where you know you're welcome and you're ready to wake up. You're ready to do your healing. You're ready to be seen, held, supported. And it doesn't matter if you feel like that resonates with me in my spaces or another healer and another healing space, but it's time. And they're hearing this, you're hearing this for a reason. So take away what it is that you need from this and go forwards on your journey.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Emma. That brings us to the end of this episode. But before we go, I'd love for you to share how people can get in touch with you.
So you can find me on all social outlets. It's I am Emma Rose _. I also have a website, which is ianemmarose.co.uk, and you can book sessions there or through socials. I have some ceremonies and retreats coming up in 2026, and I'm also launching 2 new courses. One's about personal healing, and another one is a practitioner path for people that are interested in taking this work forward and holding space and ceremony for others.
Amazing, Emma. Thank you so much. It's been an honor to have you in this space.
It's
as
been an
always.
absolute honour to be here. I've really enjoyed it. It's been so nice.
It really has. So thank you so much to everyone who's tuned in today. As always, guys, remember to trust your path, honor your process, and keep aligning with solitude.